Well, folks, I have been amazed with the way people are explaining the choices that big shots are making. Ones who have entangled themselves, in a web that led to a kind of a panic button that was pushed. The cascading results have reverberated around the world. I can't compare what I've found circulating to revisiting, a shot heard around the world or anything like that. But there's some flaky people in high places, and the consensus seems to be that for some, the axiom is what goes around comes around. I've always objected to that, thinking that, that's a zero-sum game or something worse. But it does seem that in many echelons, some things play out with a kind of amazing symmetry. Meanwhile, I seem caught in a different kind of problem related to how people conduct their affairs. But in my case, I just can't find any particular thing to do about what people have decided. People suggest to me that there's some sort of struggle for progress among people differing in opinions, but basically what I myself feel is that what really counts is the consensus that really has never been challenged. I don't expect any number of things to change because of the majority opinion involved in one way or another. Even though the technique of sources continually tell me that what seems unfair to me or cruel will be alleviated. I can't reconcile that anyway, except to say that there is duplicity, and then there are those who have a rude awakening, and yet that doesn't change the overriding environment that I suffer. That keeps getting worse. It keeps getting worse. Meanwhile, though, it's amazing to see what's happening. For example, the run-up to the elections in the United States involves a lot of stuff that I think people ought to take an interest in if they can detect the reticence, the amazing reticence, because a lot of things point to the fact that many people know a lot about what's really going on and telegraph that they do know, but they're not going to say anything more than anybody else. And so there's a kind of eerie kind of number of derivations that seem likely to carry the day for, major candidates, for example, in the next U.S. election. That leaves me in the dust. There's nobody doing anything that has much to do with the Proud Boys who are at large as far as I'm concerned, and there's some in high places in business who have been found out And what they've tried to use is information that they thought was decisive, only to find that people now know the kind of person being dealt with. And, well, I don't know. I guess it could be an October surprise any day, in October or otherwise. There could be an October surprise about this upcoming election, but right now there are elements of behavior in large companies that are not being scrutinized because of the scramble to try to put together political coalitions for November. All of the politics kind of give some poorly performing executives more slack than they would have in some other year. But that doesn't mean we're missing out on something, some big deal. If there wasn't, if there were no scramble now for votes, that wouldn't clear away the smoke or the mirrors to enable slipshod ethics, ironic failures from being seen for what they are. That's kind of independent, but I know for sure that the political situation is of great interest to the more politically inclined executives. Some people made a great effort to test the waters to see whether or not politics or how politics could help the fortunes involved. But nothing obvious like that is going on as in the past or whatever. It's going to be different this go round because of the rawness for the revulsion that people feel for how things have developed, without really knowing what personalities might be involved. And I don't think that the political process is going to change who knows what very much among a great number. But there's an enlarging number of people. I wouldn't call them elite, but maybe I could call them savvy people, who are not particularly disdainful of those who, pull up their socks and go to work every day, on the cutting edge of selling groceries, running a restaurant, for that matter, really edgy stuff, trying to keep an airline going. That's a tough one. People really dedicated to one thing or another that might be better than the stuff that people have learned are in the hands of people they thought they could trust, and now they can't. People heard the message about, well, you gotta have paper ballots. It became a religion. Gotta have paper ballots. And then only to find that, you'd need an 18-wheeler to carry the mail-in ballots that, wherever people want to send them in. And then in Arizona, was a textbook case of the so-called religious icon. The paper ballot was all screwed up. You know. So yeah. I'm supposed to say that, right? There are a lot of people who know, wait a minute, we've got to do better. And, now then, the dark horse is TikTok. That's becoming, that a company like that is a sacrificial lamb. And my saying that, merely means that the 700 Club or something like that, or some of the social media crowd might say, well, you must be, terrible because obviously it's a communist front or something. And then they jump in their Range Rover to go shop at Walmart. I mean, there is a growing number of people who are not that confused. And we can see now that Hemingway would sit in the stadium of the Bull Ring or whatever and watch as TikTok is slaughtered. A blood sport. People have tried to draw a line. If they're ignorant enough, they can try to draw a line and say, well, we'll buy a washing machine or I don't know, a lamp or something from China, but not a telephone or a software. And there's an industry, a cottage industry, just chock full of, 347,000 names and personal data were stolen from XYZ, and, stuff like that. It's like watching, all these murders and mayhem, and it's just really, and there are people who, a growing number, not a narrowing number, a growing number know what to pay attention to in the news, if anything, or how to interpret the news. And now it turns out that there's some people who are qualified to run Cracker Barrel, but they're actually in charge of something that you would think is more important than Cracker Barrel. Why Cracker Barrel is closing, I don't know, because it seems to me the people they appeal to are breeding like flies. Others are having a struggle to, keep their numbers up, but anyway, it just turns out that some people are trying to hit above their weight and have been found out, I know, for example, there are people who tried to trash a former governor of Louisiana to make him out to be, if not communist, then depraved or a gambler or I don't know what all. Huey Long said, look folks, this little oil patch is almost underwater, literally. It has about 2% of the roads paved, and yes, if I'm elected, I'm going to pave the roads so that the vegetables can get to market or whatever they have. I don't know what can grow down there. But all the sailors love New Orleans, up and down the Mississippi. And need I say more? I'm talking about some people who really ought to resign from any number of positions, and there's a little crowd, not a large crowd, but they really ought to resign. And there's this. The 700 Club lost its maximum leader not too long ago. They could go there if they could somehow fit in, or something. Or there certainly are counterparts for just about anybody. And not worry people who don't really understand politics or life or anything, but have become like a former Secretary of State, all puffed up, plain to see. Or going back further in time, not puffed up in the sense that more recent characters, but zealots nonetheless. The Dulles brothers. Now, there's some people now who smile broadly, but do things like the fruit company, and far worse. The Dulles brothers did a more recent version, who's now, I guess, an expensive courtesan or consultant, is just as puffed up today as he ever was, but he just had to be slow walked away from the American administration he was in, and that's something else. The America start with the White House and go through the bureaucracies or Congress, and you see a diminished enterprise. And there again, notwithstanding the Proud Boys, which are, have got me by the throat, or whatever some people would say is the right description. There's nothing I can do about them, because nobody is more interested than in the past. But downsizing from the days when after World War II, the ugly Americans were triumphant, admired far and wide, globally. And then their spoiled brat offspring is now retiring, almost all of them, and now some other Americans are saying, what can we do about the recent past, about the mediocrity that built the fins on the car named Cadillac in 1959? How much of that went on then? How much of that goes on now? And will it last forever? And I know a lot of people, not in America, but a lot of people have seen things get better in many ways. Some even feel a kind of embarrassment of riches, but they handle that better than their counterparts in America. And people bemoan the death of what? The death of democracy. Really? I know for sure there are deadbeats who don't know how to defend democracy. They don't really know what it is. They don't really know what the alternatives are. On that basis, maybe a few leadership types say, I don't want to run Cracker Barrel anymore. Let's just shut it down. Turn out the lights on the way out. Or what? Did they walk off saying, I don't want to mess with this anymore, and turn the reins over to the people there to run a co-op, and then they went bust? I don't know. I can't say. A lot of things I don't know. But I do know that some people purport to be defenders of liberty or democracy or anything good, and they don't even know what that might be. Most people now suspect that might be true. The number who know that and also keep quiet is growing. You know, they're not really elite, but in a way they're better off than some. They're not the silent majority, though, that some people pandered to. You know, an invention that they tried mightily to make real. You know, like pounding a wooden hammer and a little toy bench that a kid would have, pounding round pegs into round holes and square pegs, and only they didn't necessarily know what was round and what was square or whatever. But you know, the third generation after World War II is just simply having a reckoning. It's not a big apocalypse for people to think, well, you know, the U.S. is not really the arbiter that it says it is. You know, when it says, oh, we don't do things in terms of the International Criminal Court, whatever they call it. We're bigger than that. And I know some executives who think they know what's right and wrong, who don't know what they're trying to defend. I mean, you can't defend something that you don't understand. You can fake it or maybe get lucky for a while, you know, but sooner or later, you know, you can't hire enough cutouts to take the fall for genuine mediocrity. Well, of course, that's what we're seeing happening in the political season. I think it's terrific, for example, that the field is not just two, although I don't know how that's going to work out. It's pretty dicey. I would say I just hope that we don't end up like we did one year with hard feelings about a third party candidate with Ralph Nader. I wouldn't want to see that happen again. I don't see any reason for that. You know, I don't see any reason for that to happen. I have my druthers. I have, you know, this wish. I think it would be wonderful if, in a perfect world, people would say, oh my gosh, what we need is to overthrow the ossified two parties that are running the country. They've got a monopoly between them, a de facto deep state arrangement. Well, it was sort of that way. Actually, there's major differences, but it was sort of that way when Lincoln just, you know, took over. Well, you know, that was because the country was hurtling toward the Civil War, and that's not happening in America today. We're not on the verge of a civil war with a third party saying, oh, folks, this is it. You know, this is the big one, and let's go for it. What could happen for a third party to win out? What could happen for a third party to win out over the two main parties that people know so very well now, that determine who can get on every ballot? even if they don't do it as directly as they can in some states. I can't imagine the scenario, frankly. I wish I could. I wish somebody else knew what to do. But I don't want to see anybody sacrificial in the arena, you know. Rather, I'd like to see, things building toward the day when a third party matters so much that the other two parties have to do far better than they will in my lifetime. I don't think in my lifetime that the Republicans and Democrats are going to do much more than run, a two-ring circus, and a third party might qualify, and then they would have a three-ring circus. But what would bring the tent down, or what would you use for a metaphor or a storyline? What would cause what we need? I don't know. Certainly not. I wouldn't want to have a civil war just to get a new party put on top. But what would it take? Well, failing that, a lot of people turn to Wharton School, still one of the best schools for business. Others prefer the Harvard Business School, or it's on the West Coast too. Not to say that the international people are likely to flex their muscles in plain sight the way they are done in America, but there are plenty of people who, qualified to run extremely important companies without the buffoonery that has taken place in the United States. The idea that social media somehow have all of it happened in the U.S. Well, okay. Some are better than others. That's only natural, Human beings are, human beings. But in terms of the information that is available on any number of platforms, and I think another one is scheduled to have an IPO soon. It's thought of as a tiny kind of inscrutably rebellious outfit or something, and then there'll be even more. But there are those who use these American machines, websites or whatever, to their advantage with what they have to share. And I try to look out for music or analysis or whatever from one source or another. You might say that the paywall governs in the U.S. more than elsewhere, and so there's a deafening silence as far as what's available the way it used to be. For example, I noticed some of the sites I really admired, even some two-tiered outfits that had a bunch of stuff that was free to the public, and then other things that were available for folks who simply paid a nominal fee. That was more or less, pay the freight, and so on. But at the same time, there's some outstanding things that are utterly free, although they say, do you like us? Well, send us some money. Sort of like, when you click on somebody and you can thumbs up or what is that stuff? You can become a member, or you can super thanks, things that people can do, to help out. But in terms of people punching above their weight, remember the Dulles brothers were not, the rednecks like, 700 Club. They were rather the obsessive, flinty, puritanical people that figured that they were born to rule, and so they did. Well, anyway, there are others who have that problem in the news now, and I don't know what's going to happen, but maybe I should just pay attention to what probably is more likely to be cared for by a growing number who do not hate or disdain the ignorant, do not plunder them, enslave them, or anything like that, but who might make, a good car company better, a good construction company better, whatever, and leave the politics to the buffoons. But there are a lot of people, now who need some sort of attitude adjustment, but it's really difficult to think that they'll have one, because they have the upper hand and are determined to deliver attitude adjustments to others. And damn, some of them too like the idea of let's really have our fun in terms of legal deductions, so that you can parade around and give frozen turkeys to people, but let's not build a decent hospital or convalescence place, or hospice facilities, or schools, or civic centers. Some of the best music that I've heard are secular halls equipped for good music. The Manchester in England is thought of as the cradle of the labor movement. In the United States, it's almost dormant, although there's some signs of the labor movement coming back to life. But you won't find, a magnificent music hall in every city paid for by labor. On the other hand, it was the UAW, more than any other single group, that enabled Martin Luther King's work and much of his success. I kind of think of the United States as a young company, forever young. Bob Dylan's song, the whole United States, from coast to coast, more or less forever young. And that's no accident, and something like that cuts a lot of different ways, including some of the main ideas that Bob Dylan has noticed very effectively. But people talk about politics, the politically active companies. That's true in other parts of the world. In fact, there are a lot of problems, I think, in the UK, in in that regard. The things are all tangled up. Germany has some problems. France has some problems. Brussels, recently people came to town with tons and tons of manure and dumped it in the streets of Brussels. Well, now, I don't think we've quite had that in the U.S., so some might say, well, what the hell are you talking about? Well, that's one reason I stay in my room. I don't want to play 20 questions with anybody. I really don't. And the nice thing is, this way, 35 minutes of counting. Here it is, a little after 9, a quarter past 9 in the morning of the 20th of March, 2024. And nobody is required to pay any attention to what I've said. But I'd say, at least I have the right to say it without it's being characterized by food at any level in our culture or democracy, really. That people don't know whether we have that or not, and I'm more concerned, it's rather ironic, but I'm more concerned with democracy than have been any number of fascists throughout history.